one of the ways that we use, one of the last things we did is discount, sales tax, rebates, and commission. It's all based off a percentage and decimal work. Discount, if you've done any sort of shopping ever, you know that they have sales where the advertised price will be one thing, but then they will offer to give it to you at a lesser price. So that's what we're going to talk about with discount. This is a grade 8 topic. So if we're doing discount, I'll give you a price of something like $70. Doesn't matter what we're selling. And it's 20% off sale. So what that means is we're going to take money off of that original $70, and you get to keep it. But the price will not be the same. It will actually be 20% less of 70. When you hear what we're really doing is 20% of 70, and you remember we did that already in this unit, 20% of 70. And there's two ways to go about doing it, and I'd like to start having you think more mathematically and take some risks. The old way that we did it was we would take 20% and put it as a decimal. In order to put it as a decimal, we had to divide it by 100. And remember, 20 divided by 100, you're just moving the decimal place 2 spaces. You can do it with a calculator, but there's no need at this grade level. And you're going to do 20% times, because a word of 70. If I was to multiply 20 times 70, okay, but here, that would get me 14. Really, the answer is it's $14 less. $70 minus 14. So we know we're not done. If you were asked for the sale price of the item, you could stop it if it just asked what is 20% of 70. If we're talking about a question where you're going to be asked how much is the new price, which a lot of our things are, you would have to subtract 70 minus 14, and that would be equal to 56. So the new sale price of that is $56. Now, that is good math, and we've talked about that, and we've already done that. What you might want to consider now is looking at it this way. If it's 20% less off the price of 70, what you're really doing is you're taking 80% of 70 to figure out what the whole amount is. So instead of taking 20% off and then just leaving it here and then having to subtract and get to here, we can do that in another step. But you have to think it through. 20% off an item really means that there's 80% left on the item. So we can look at that 20% sale as actually 80% of 70. And in that case, we would take 80%, we divide it by 100, it would get us this, and now that's 80% of $70. If you were to put that decimal right into your calculator and multiply because of that of word, you would get $56 right in the question. There would be no need for the extra steps, but you have to think it through that way. Some people find it easy once you get the idea. Some people find it more difficult. Either way works. We already knew how to take a percentage of a number. Here, however, we're talking about prices, and you add it, or you subtract it away. The next thing we're going to talk about is tax, because if you ever buy something, there is tax added onto it. So let's go back, let's call $75. There is no sale, however, and it's always going to be plus tax in Ontario. Tax in Ontario is called HST, which stands for Harmonized Sales Tax. It was a combination of the old PST and GST, but those are gone, and now we just have HST. And it is a whopping 13%. And it makes you sad sometimes to add 13% on to stuff, but that's how we can afford all of our health care and education and roads and infrastructure. We need to give the government money somewhere so that they can pay for everything that we get. So makes me sad, but I go ahead and pay it. Anyhow, because you have no choice. Anyhow, if it's 13%, we have to add this on. Last time we took it off. This time we have to add it to our price. So it's still going to be $75, but we have to find out what 13% of that is. So it's really 13% of. We change that to the decimal. It equals decimal 13. We multiply it by 75, and we're going to get $9.75. And remember, guys, that's extra. That's on top of the $75 already. So if you think this through logically, you know we're not done the question. We have to take our original price of $75 and add on almost another $10. It's only a quarter away from $10. So that's $84.75. Hold on, someone's here. So anyhow, as I was speaking, that is now going to be $84. What that is the original price plus the tax that you've added together. Now, just like the previous question, I want you in grade 7 and 8 to start doing this in one step. So we talked about you are really taking that number of 75, you have to multiply it by 13%, but if you want to keep that original 75 in the equation, you can simply multiply it by 1.13. The decimal 13 part is the tax, and this 1 is the whole number, so that'll be 1 times 75 and decimal 13 times 75. When you put them together, you don't have to do two steps. You don't have to find the tax and then add it to the original question. When you do it this way, multiply whatever the price of the item is times 1.13. What you're doing is you're adding the tax in one step. And if you're to multiply 75 times 1.13, you would get $84.75, just like the last one that you did in two steps. All right, so that is just a quick review on tax. So the last part we were talking about are rebates and commission, and they are two totally different things. I'm just going to do them on the same page. You need to familiarize yourself with the two terms so you know which one is which and how they're to be used with the money. Again, they're percentages, and you're going to put them to decimals, and you're going to do things with them, but you need to understand what a rebate is and what commission is. If you are a customer and you are buying something, you really want a rebate. A rebate is money that the company gives you back later just for buying their product. You don't get it at the store, but often you have to send in your receipt and fill out some paperwork, and they will actually send you a check back for whatever rebate they're saying they're giving you. So if you bought a car from Ford for $25,000, Ford might say, we will give you a 10% rebate back after you buy it. So here's how you calculate. Remember, this is 25, or this is 10% that you're going to get back. So what you're going to get is 10% of the price you paid of being here, and the price you paid is $25,000. Remember that the 10% is really 10 over 100 in order to get it as a decimal. That'd be decimal 10. We're going to multiply that by the price that we're going to pay for the object, in this case being a car. 10% of 25,000 is actually quite significant. We're going to multiply that by one decimal, and we're going to move it over there, and that is going to equal $2,500. That is money that you are going to get back. That is essentially what a rebate is. Now, commission is something else. It's not tax, it's not discount, it's not a rebate. I'll get a new page here for you. Let's still go with that $25,000 for the Ford car, but this time when you are getting commission, you are no longer talking about the person that is buying the car. Commission is for people that sell things. They are the seller of clothes and cars and jewelry and whatever. And companies give people commission to entice them to sell more of their product, and that way they don't have to pay them as much. They will get an hourly wage, but they will also get a commission on what they sell, and that rewards the people that do a good job selling. Anyhow, if we were to say that the company, the car company, gave people 5%, the salespeople were selling a car, then we have to calculate that. Now, 5% of a number, it's still going to be 5% of 25,000. And 5% as a decimal, oh, please be careful. It's not 0.5, but it's 0.05. You multiply that times the price of the car. And if you were to put a little equal sign there, and 5%, decimal 0.05 times 25,000 is $1,250. Makes sense because that's half of 10%. We had 2,500 when we did 10%, and this one really works. Anyhow, but what you notice is this is money given to the salesperson. It doesn't go in your pocket. It's still calculated the same way, but it goes into the salesperson's pocket. All right, here's our last question, because I know this video is getting a little bit long, but you're going to get some questions that are bigger. So let me read it to you. Susie sells a necklace to Mary that costs $1,500. Pretty expensive. Fortunately for Mary, who bought it, it was 20% off. Anyhow, Susie, the seller, makes 3% commission on everything she sells for her jewelry store. So the first question is, how much was the necklace including tax? Well, that was the original price, but we're going to have to put the discount on before we put the tax of 13% back on. So there's a little bit of work to do for the first question. There are multiple ways to do it, okay, but I will kind of show you the first one. If we have $1,500, the first thing we have to do is get 20% off of that. So we will multiply that by decimal 20. That's 20% of it. When you take 20% of 1,500, that's going to be equal $300. Remember, that is 20% off of the price. So in order to figure out how much that price of the necklace costs, we will have to subtract 1,500 minus 300 is $1,200. That's how much it is with the discount. But before we can get it for ourselves, or before Mary can take it home, she has to pay tax. And there is tax of 13% on this price here. So when we're doing it, you will have to multiply that times 13%. When we get that 13% of 1,200 is $156. Now, if you look at that, that's not the new price of the necklace. That's just the tax, and we have to add it back onto the price. So this will really be 1,200 plus 156, which is $1,356 with tax. What I want to show you is that there are other ways to do it. Remember, we were talking that if it's 20% off, what we're really doing is paying 80% of it. And if you can wrap your head around that, you can do it that way. $1,500 times 80% is going to equal $1,200 right away. What we've done is eliminated this part here with the subtraction. And for the next part, if we wanted to do the tax on it, we also talked that you can multiply this by 1.13. The whole number would bring this 1,200 along, and the decimal 13 would just show the tax, and would put it all together. Anyhow, 1,200 times 1.13 is $1,356, $1,356. And you can see the difference between these two questions. They are both done the same, or they both have the same information. One involved a little more adding and subtracting, and one on the right involves you thinking through the question and doing a little bit of logical math. Both of them are right, and both of them will get you the same marks. Anyhow, the last thing we have to do is find out how much Susie makes. Susie will make the money on what she sold it for. She won't make money on the tax. So when you look at this question, she sold the necklace for $1,200. The tax goes to the government. That's not Susie's fault. So she is going to get commission on $1,200. And remember, she gets 3% commission on the selling price of that 1,200. So really what we're doing is 3% of 1,200, 1,200 being the sale price. 3% as a decimal is decimal 0.03, don't be fooled. Of this multiplication, 1,200, and we get decimal 0.03 times 1,200 is $36 is what her commission on that would be. So she just gets an extra $36 in her paycheck in addition to her hourly wage. That's commission, rebates, taxes, and discounts. Study hard and ask me any questions you have tomorrow.